5th grade ELA text set 11, genre study biography. This biography is about an African-American woman who became a civil rights activist and also happened to be one of the most famous entertainers of the 20th century. Her name was Lena Horne. At the beginning of the book, there's a quote. You have to be taught to be second class. You're not born that way. Lena Horne. You have to be. What does that mean to you? Let's find out more about the woman who said this. Here is the legendary Miss Lena Horne by Carol Boston Weatherford. The Horne family tree was laden with achievers, teachers, activists, a Harlem Renaissance poet, the dean of a black college, and Lena's grandmother, Cora Calhoun Horne, a college graduate. Lena's father, Teddy, had other ideas. A street hustler, he lived high on the hog, had fine clothes and fancy cars, never went to jail, and eventually owned a hotel and restaurant. Lena's mother, Edna, was an actress in a touring troupe. The day Lena arrived, Teddy bet on a card game to pay the hospital bill. June 30th, 1917, Brooklyn native New Yorker Lena Horne was born in the freedom struggle. At 2, she became not just one of the youngest members of the National Associates for the Advancement of Colored People, but also a cover girl for the NAACP branch bulletin. When Lena was barely a toddler, Teddy left for Pittsburgh and turned his smarts to become a gambling kingpin. Her stage-struck mother hit the road too. Little Lena stayed with her grandmother, Cora, in the family's 4-story Brooklyn townhouse. So what do you think the author wants us to know about Lena's family? Cora had high standards and drilled into Lena good manners, black pride, and the value of well-rounded education. Lena learned to read before kindergarten. Books were her lifelong love, a haven from hardship and heartache. Cora enrolled Lena in drama and dance lessons, but would not hear of a show business career. Not for respectable folks, Cora said. Cora had high hopes for her granddaughter, but at a tender age, Lena got tooted along as her mother chased bit parts in vaudeville. Lena lived out of a suitcase, shuttled between relatives, boarding houses, homes that took in children for pay. Being on the road was with her mother was rough, especially down south. Lena's shoes never fit and her feet always hurt, because stores did not let blacks try on shoes before buying. A black cast member was lynched and a black guest was beaten at the roaming house where Lena and her mother were staying. Lena longed for home. So how would you describe Lena's childhood? Back under Cora's wing in Brooklyn, Lena attended an integrated all-girls school, one of the city's best, and joined a debutante social club. During the Great Depression, Lena left school and moved in with her mother and new stepfather, both jobless. As money ran out and breadlines grew, Lena's mother decided to put her on stage. Lena auditioned at the fabled Cotton Club, Harlem's hottest night spot, had valet parking, sizzling black musical reviews, waltzing waiters, and no mingling between the black performers and all the white audience. I had no talent, said Lena. All I had was looks. Just a teen, Lena shied into the chorus line. Band leaders Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway were now her teachers. Edna chaperoned and coached Lena with singing. Before long, Lena leaped from the chorus line to Broadway and danced with Your Gods. Then came a singing and dancing gig with the Noble Sissel Society Orchestra. Classy as they were, the black band still had to enter white ballrooms through the back door and could not stay at white hotels for a place to sleep after shows. Band members had to scout for black families willing to take in a few musicians for a night. With Sissel, 18-year-old Lena cut her first record, I Take to You. Lena took to the spotlight so well that she was soon fronting an all-white big band, one of the first black vocalists to do so. Touring with the Charlie Barnett Orchestra was far from glamorous, though. Lena was banned from the bandstand between numbers. Restaurants refused to serve her, and hotels refused her rooms, and she slept in the bus until Barnett got wise. He began introducing her as Cuban, but that didn't take the sting out of racism. So as Lena grew older, she faced many difficulties, didn't she? What theme do you think the author is developing in this book? When Lena headlined a nightclub out west, Hollywood studio exes caught her act. She had already starred in a couple of low-budget films, including The Duke is Tops. Now MGM was offering something more, a studio contract, the first ever for a black actress. But the NAACP wanted Lena not only to command a paycheck, but to demand respect. With the civil rights group behind her, Lena waged a one-woman war against stereotypes by refusing to play maids and mammies on screen. NAACP leaders hoped Lena could change the way that whites saw African Americans. Respectable roles, though, were few, but black actresses, so Lena was cast instead in singing numbers that could be easily snipped from films when shown in the South so as not to defy racist views. Lena dubbed herself a butterfly pinned to a column. She didn't get to fly in black films like Cabin in the Sky and Stormy Weather, whose title song became her anthem. Even in black and white movies, the butterfly dazzled. So what do you think Lena meant by a butterfly pinned to a column? What kind of language is that? How do you think Lena felt? Lest Lena be mistaken on screen for white, Max Factor created makeup just to darken her skin. Then she lost roles to white actresses who wore her makeup to play light-skinned black women. Black moviegoers didn't have it any better than Lena. Southern theaters didn't bar blacks. Made them use a colored entrance, sit in the balcony, or wait for midnight screenings. Although Lena despised Jim Crow laws, she did her part for the war effort, singing in armed forces radio shows, but even the military was segregated, just as there were separate bathrooms, water fountains, and waiting rooms in the South. They were separate shows, one for black troops and another for whites. At one venue, Lena was denied a cup of coffee, but was asked for autographs on her way out. At another, German prisoners of war were seated in front of black soldiers. That indignity was too much for Lena to swallow. She was fed up with whites-only clubs and theaters. So she paid her own way to perform for black troops. She paid many visits to the base in Alabama, where she framed Tuskegee Airmen, who were training to become the first black military aviators. After World War II, Lena's ties to outspoken activists like entertainer Paul Robinson and civil rights leader W.E.B. Du Bois got her blacklisted. Though not a communist, she couldn't get work in Hollywood. Not during Senator Joe McCarthy's Red Scare. She sang at President Truman's inaugural ball just the same. By then, Lena had married and divorced and had 2 children to feed. She had to work. You got babies, singer Billie Holiday once told her. You got to pay your rent. Like Cora said, never let anyone see you cry. Lena kept her tears and her love life to herself. In 1947, she married Lenny Hayton, a white music director for MGM. They married in Paris, France, because many states in the U.S. did not allow interracial marriage. Lena and Lenny did not announce their marriage for 3 years. She later said that she married him to advance her career, but she learned to love him. With Lena at her side, Lena toured nightclubs and became an international star. In 1957, her name off the blacklist, Lena cut records, sang on TV, and starred on Broadway. But her most important work lay ahead. In 1963, rally with Mississippi River civil rights leader Medgar Evers, Lena sang the spiritual "This Little Light of Mine." She found not just her voice, but a calling, her light. Days later, Evers was slain. Down but unbowed, Lena drew on her freedom-fighting roots. She took time off from the stage and screen to join the civil rights movement. She sang at rallies for the National Council of Negro Women. At the March on Washington, where Dr. King gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, Lena spoke one word into the microphone. In this battle, Lena was not just a pretty face, she was a foot soldier. She was a foot soldier in a battle. This is a metaphor, isn't it? Eventually, the star returned to the silver screen as Glinda, the Good Witch in the Wiz, into Broadway in an award-winning one-woman show. Lena even sang on Sesame Street to a certain green frog. It wasn't easy being an ebony queen. Lena's life was not without sad notes. In 1967, she lost her dearest friend, composer and pianist Billy Strayhorn, and in 1971 lost her father's son and husband. All in the same year, Lena was so down that the only way she could go was up. She stayed in and lost herself in books. Then music saved her. Lena remembered what band leader Count Basie, jazz royalty himself, had told her years earlier. They don't give us a chance very often, and when they do, we have to take it. Lena seized every opportunity to shine. Her crown silvery gray, Lena kept cutting records and winning praise, Grammy and Tony Awards, a Kennedy Center honor, honorary degrees from Howard University and Yale, and a place in the Big Band and Jazz Hall of Fame. Lena Horne's pioneering performances, her fight on the front line of the freedom struggle, the racial barriers that she broke, and her fiery pride form her legacy. Because Lena refused to darken rare doors, black stars now gleam on red carpets and reap box office gold.